Thank you very much. If you take your places. Welcome to the press conference for the History of Sound, which is having its world premiere in competition at the 78th Cannes Film Festival.
I personally don't see the parallels at all between Brokeback Mountain, other than the fact that we spend a little bit of time in a tent. But each to their own, in terms of how you want. But I do think that there's a bigger question there in the fact that it draws your attention to why do I think that it's not that film? Because that film, to me, when I look at Brokeback Mountain, it's a beautiful film, but it is dealing with the idea of repression. And this film is fundamentally pointed in the opposite direction. So I think, to be honest, I find those comparisons relatively lazy and frustrating. But for the most part, I think that relationship that I have to the film is born out of the fact that it's a celebration of these two men's love, not a kind of film about their repressed relationship with their sexuality.
The idea of History of Sound for me wasn't about the complication of their sexuality. That wasn't the problem between them. That wasn't the thing that was going to keep them apart. What was going to keep them apart was the assumption that they might have other loves in their life and that they might come back to each other and there would be more time. But then when David goes to war, he's distracted by an internal suffering, and that becomes a diminishing of him. And Lionel has to work through what happened and why that happened, and when in searching for that answer, he discovers that his very first love, potentially his great love, was also his last love.
Build up. Did you already have a connection before?
Whenever you do a period film, you're always looking for, I suppose, great faces that feel that they fit the period of the movie, and we had a fantastic casting director, Susan Shopmaker, who's an incredible casting director, and I can only credit her for helping me find these amazing faces and actors, because it was my first film in the US, so I was kind of green to the pool of actors in New York.
It was your first film in the US, but you didn't cast American actors for the leads.
Well, that was because I'd met Paul and Josh organically years before, and we kind of never even realized that we were making a film in America until he had started learning the accent.
We started this film at a very interesting junction in that we'd known each other for about 5 years, and we were definitely friendly, but I think it really helped so that foundation of safety and play was there, but then the relationship really deepened in the 3 or 4 weeks that we were filming. And I think for anyone who's seen the film and the kind of weight of of the themes that we're playing with, the set itself was very light and boyish and nonsensical at times. But I think, and again, it's a testament to Oliver that he didn't try to dictate the tone of the film onto the actors when they were playing. He trusted us to be in whatever kind of emotional state we felt was necessary before we would shoot certain scenes. But I felt very lucky that we knew, myself and Josh knew each other well enough to begin with, but we had a canvas to keep painting on during the filming process.
I remember at the end of the first week, you and Josh running down a hill because we'd done the first week, and it was like they'd achieved something like a football team. So there was a lot of that warmth and that lightness, which is always great when actors get on and want to hang out and sit inside of tiny cars together because it was cold, and all those things that make my daily life easier, because they're not being precious about being chased back to their trailers and hating each other and walking away and all those kinds of things that can happen on a movie. We were the opposite movie. We were a big happy family.
That he knows about the loss, but what happens?
It's a question that has generally followed the work that I've done, and I still haven't managed to craft an answer that I think is consistent, because I think it's the question about masculinity to me is that it's ever shifting, and I think maybe in the world of cinema we're moving slightly away from the kind of maybe more alpha traditional leading male characters, and I don't really know how. I don't think the film is defining or attempting to define or redefine masculinity. I think it is being very subjective with their relationship specific to Lionel and David.
My question is for Paul. Paul, I wanted to ask you about music.
I was 24 when I first read the script. Is that, yeah, roughly around that. And then getting to make it as a 28-year-old at the time, I don't think I would have been able. I don't think I would have been able to play that role the same way. And I can't be kind of direct with the answer, not kind of, because I just think life happens. Love, I think, is a very complicated. What's the thing? Andrew Scott's speech in Fleabag about love at the end. Do you know that? Like, I think it's a wonderful at the wedding, but it's like that's what I think about with it. I think it's a very hard thing to pin down, and I think again, what I found so moving about the screenplay is it's like it's never really described in words. It's described in actions. It's described in things that you don't see. So when David is putting the feathers into the pillowcase, it's a total act of love that is not perceived by Lionel. And I think that's something in my own life that I think I've learned, is that like kindness is wildly underrated in romantic relationships and should be celebrated, I think.
Many people, I was heartbroken and then typically was thinking, oh, why didn't he do this?
Thank you for joining us.